Hello everybody, this is SMM1114 with the FlyJSim 737-200 for X-Plane 10. This is a very nice aircraft, getting on the xplane.org store for $47. I'm going to show you how to do a cold and dark startup. In order to get the plane to go into cold and dark, you go into your options menu over here and select cold and dark, then reload your aircraft by going to aircraft and then open aircraft. But anyway, since we're here, and you all know how to do that. I am getting quite a bit lower frames, I will warn you. I usually get around 40 frames, but that's alright for this demonstration. We'll start off by going to the options menu and then hitting connect ground power and connect air cart. Unfortunately, the plane, it doesn't simulate the actual air cart and the ground power cart attaching to the plane, but that's alright. I'm using the KLM texture today. Very nice output model, or the outside model of the aircraft. And right now we're at Seattle Tacoma, and we're going to fly to Boeing Field after we get this started up. So anyway, we'll go up to the overhead panel after we connected the ground power and turn our battery on, and then we can flip the little switch. And you'll notice the ground power available light has shown up and a bunch of other lights, but that's the one we're going to focus on. We're going to flip this switch down, which turns the ground power on. It allows the aircraft to use the ground power from the ground power vehicle. So now that that's on, you'll notice the overhead panel itself has illuminated, and you should be able to hear an avionics fan. So now we'll flip the fuel pumps so they're on to get ready to start. And this has always been weird. You have to turn these two hydraulic pumps off and then turn these two on until the low pressure lights disappear. Then you have to turn these two on, and then those low pressure lights will disappear. It's kind of strange how they put it, but you have to turn these off, then these on. I'll do it again real fast. First you have to turn hydraulic pumps B on, B1 and B2, and then A1 and A2, and then all low pressure lights should disappear. The main object of starting it up before and after start is to get all the warning lights disappearing from the overhead panel and from the master caution warning warnings over here and over here, because these have different warnings. But anyway, back to starting. So after we have the hydraulic pumps on and the fuel pumps on, and we have our ground power connected, we're now able to do the startup sequence for the first engine. So we'll go down to the bottom of the overhead panel to the engine start place and turn the first engine to ground. You'll hear the starter, and the N2 should start rising on engine number 1. After it reaches about 8 to 10% N2, you'll flip the idle cutoff switch to idle. The fuel cutoff switch to idle, sorry. The exhaust gas temperature, it's common for it to go over the red. Every once in a while it won't, sometimes it does. I haven't found, there's no particular pattern that I've found that it goes above or under when starting. And then this will go up to the green, and then we'll start the other engine. Until then, the plane is starting up at Seattle Tacoma. And they really put a lot of effort into this flight model. It's very much worth $47. Okay, it sounds like the engine started up. So let's go back up. Is the engine started? Yes, the N2's in the green, the exhaust gas temperature in the green, the N1's in the green. Oil pressure's in the green. Everything's good. Just a little reminder, this row is for the engine 1 and this row is engine 1. This row and this row are engine 2 engine gauges. So now that the engine 1 has started, we can now flip this generator 1 to on. So the generator off bus should turn off, and the AC amp should be indicating between 50 and 100 amps. And now, since we have everything else prepared, we can just go ahead and do the same thing for engine 2. just flip that to ground, and then we'll wait for the N2 to get up to 8 to 10%, and then flip this to idle instead of cutoff. Then we'll wait for the same thing for the N2 to get up to 55%, the N1 to get up to just after 30%, about 32%. In the meantime, since the first generator is on, we can go ahead and turn the yaw damper on and the window heat on just to expedite our takeoff time. This is alright to do at any point. And then our auto land system. Now it's talking about the air system, but we won't mess with the air system until the engine started, because the engine needs the air. Okay, the engine has already started, so we will open the left pack and the right pack. You'll see the PSI has gone down. We'll open the isolation valve. We don't need the bleed, sorry. No, my bad. We'll keep the isolation valve at auto. That's going to be what's best. And I don't really like messing with the auto land feature. We won't mess with that right now since we're just taking off and flying to Boeing Field. But now that engine 2 is started, we'll flip the generator 2 on. The generator bus switch should turn off, and it is indicating about 50 amps. We don't have any warnings except the air conditioning warning. That doesn't matter. Your virtual passengers will not get hot. Don't worry. Okay, it looks like we're good to go. We'll use the handy dandy pushback function of the FlyJSim right here. We'll hit the pushback and then we'll release the parking brake. If you release the parking brake first, the plane might start rolling forward, and then you have to hit the brake, and then the plane actually tips backwards onto its tail. But while you're doing the pushback, you can control the route of the plane with your rudders. So I'm just doing my full right rudder pedal because there aren't any planes around. I'm just going full right, and I can go back into the options menu and hit pushback again, and it stopped. But don't hit your brakes, or else the plane will fall onto its tail when it's rolling backwards. Just allow it to coast to a stop. So now we're ready to take off. So we'll taxi down to runway 16 right at Seattle Tacoma. I believe it's 16 right. Get on the taxiway here. Oh, a little bit off. You did hear that beep. I did have my throttles opened a little bit because I wanted to expedite taxiing, but the 730, that reminds me, the 737, you have to put your flaps into takeoff position, which I like to use 15 degrees of flaps. You can also use 10, but with this thing isn't as aerodynamic as some 737s, like the 600, 700, 800, and 900, the next generation series. So I like to keep it at 15 to promote as much lift as possible. And if you're wondering, that's 5 clicks if you're using a button for your flaps. Taxiway ends, but we can turn on to this. We're gonna go ahead and take off in a second. We'll fly away from Boeing Field first so we get enough room to do an approach. I'm gonna adjust the weight and balance a little bit. It's already adjusted, but it's a little bit tail heavy when you are well, the default setting makes it a little bit too tail heavy, so I like to set it a little bit weight in the nose. So we can go ahead and take off here now that we're lined up, and this is runway 16 left at Seattle Tacoma. The V card also gives me reference speeds of when I should rotate and when it's safe to climb on one engine, and it'll give me an active estimate of the weight, or actually active calculation of the weight. It's telling me to rotate now, so I'll do that. It rotates a bit fast. Since it's tail heavy, it will want to climb on you. We can go ahead and pull our gear up, and I'll keep our flaps at 15 just because Boeing Field is not that far away. Plane sometimes gets a bit sensitive to fly. I'm not used to flying it with this low of frames, so I'm used to a lot smoother simulation, but this will do for now. I'm gonna take a nice slow turn. We're gonna reduce our throttle. This airplane flies very nice. I've trimmed the aircraft up a little bit, not using any autopilot. We're taking a slow turn because it'll kind of expedite things in terms of getting onto final for Boeing Field. There's Boeing Field right there. Maintain this altitude because I will be coming in a little bit low on approach if I keep this altitude up or keep descending. Frames are a little bit annoying because they're so low. And we're going to deploy another notch of flaps, and then on final we'll deploy another. We're going on a very short final, especially for an airliner, I should say. So we're going to bring gear down, and we're going to go full flaps. And I will warn you, this plane will not automatically deploy its spoilers when you give it reverse thrust on landing. Okay, and the VREF card also gives you the reference for landing approach speed. In this case, mine's 128, and I'm doing about 128. I'm descending too fast, so I'll trim up a little bit. So I made it a bit too nose heavy, but that's alright. I'll just increase power a little bit. And it also has very good GPWS. It doesn't blast it through your speakers. It animates it or simulates it, so you're actively sitting in the cockpit and you hear it over the loudspeaker. I'm way low, but it'll be alright. Good glide path right now. And we'll start calling out smaller indications in feet, probably at 100, I believe. 100. There it is. We'll reduce our throttle because we are coming in a little bit
30.
hot.
20. 10.
There's a bit of a short landing sound. Spoilers extended. It the landing sound kind of continues once your nose wheel touches down on the ground. So there we are. We'll replay that landing from the outside because I like the animation of the reverse thrust. So we'll replay that. I'm not sure if it was a good landing or not. We'll have to find out because the landing sound is kind of generic. That's one problem about this plane. It's generic whether you hit the ground really hard or not, or really soft. I did kind of flare a little bit early. It was a good landing. And then the reverse thrusters came out right here. I'll rewind that to show you again the animation. And the spoilers should come out. There they are. Anyway, that was the FlyJSim 737-200. Definitely recommend buying it for X-Plane 10, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.